right now. There we go. Hang on. It's just broadcasting live. Perfect. Well,
hello, Doc.
Howdy, Andrea. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Well, we are live.
Yeah, we want to welcome everyone to our Tuesday Doctor's Clinic with Doc Fizz and Friends. And today he has a special treat for you. He's actually at our headquarters out in Springville, Utah. And he's going to show you some things there and give you a little tour of what's happening with the company.
Yeah, actually, you know, we probably won't, the topic isn't what's happening with the company. You know, really, Andrea, the topic is, you know, why is it important to have control of your own manufacturing? Why is it important to have good practices in manufacturing? Why is it important to know exactly what's going in your product?
Exactly.
You know, so folks, here's the corner of the building here. I'm gonna back up. So, you know, Andrea, if you want to kind of give a talk through, because you've been here, and just tell people where I am at, and I'm going to try and drive along, and I'm not going to try and talk so much because I'm paying attention more to my driving, so I don't run into somebody. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah, so this is the front corner of the Supernaturals building. I think it's a 400,000 square foot building that
400,000 square feet. Yeah.
Yeah, that Tom Mauer designed and put all his personal stuff in. Quite an accomplishment. I think he invested quite a few $1 million in this building. And this is obviously the parking lot here. So this is all the back side of it.
Yep. So this is, can you see the front entrance there?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I can't see my camera because I'm trying to hold it out the window as I drive along.
Sure. Yeah.
So these are all the employees that work here at Supernaturals. And you can see it's quite a large building. You know, we're in phase 3 of a 7-phase build out in the manufacturing. And Tom talked about it last week on the weekly call that we did on Friday night. He talked about how when he designed this, the whole idea is that this entire building, which is the size of 4 football fields, that this building would be completely housing just Sisel. But you can see here, I'm going to drive along. These are the shipping bays. This is where the products get shipped out every day. Trucks come in and not only haul Sisel products, but we manufacture for over 100 other companies that use natural products. Of course, the Sisel is the premier company. Tom puts his all of his great science into our products. I'm going to come around the back side of the building here and give a tour. Oops, I almost ran into a truck, but I didn't. So
that's good.
Yep. And then the post office truck almost ran into me. You know, folks, I'm in my truck. I'm coming along. This is the very back of the building now. I'm probably not even supposed to be here. The gate was open though, so I came in. But in this manufacturing, here's where the water supply comes in. And Andrea, can you explain to people Tom's science behind the water and why that's also important?
Sure. I was out there last July and got to take an inside tour of the building. And we also have a video of the building as an inside tour. If anyone wants to see it, we could add it down in our messages here, our comments after the live. But basically, he has designed a fabulous water system where he has the ability to remove all the minerals from the water and add in just the right amount. He can make it more alkaline, more acidic, whatever he needs to run a production of product that might need a different base for the product to be effective. He also has municipalities from all across the country coming to see and view how he has developed this water system in hopes of, utilizing it in their own cities. So it's pretty fabulous invention that he has put together there. So I see we just drove by the front office there of Sisel. I saw the sign for Sisel. So that's a separate building that houses the offices. And then, of course, Doc is driving around the Supranaturals building. Tom also mentioned last week that they do make product for 40 other networking companies they are contracted with to make product for them in this building. So not only is he producing Sisel products, but as Doc said, he produces products for over 150 different companies. And many of those products you would find on big box stores like Costco and Walgreens and places like that, and not even know that the owner of our company is producing them.
There you go. So that's my drive around, Andrea.
Yeah, that was good.
There you go. So, folks, I'm in my truck. I'm out here in Utah, as Andrea was explaining, and she was kind of explaining the whole manufacturing. Andrea, with the water system, what's so important is that Tom actually has a background as a water chemist.
Yeah.
He used to work in water.
Yeah, I've heard that. He specializes in water.
Yeah. So we have our own direct water supply. We don't run through the city water. We actually have spring water that comes off the mountain up by Tom's house. And then that water comes into the manufacturing plant here, and Tom runs it through a 7 system, a reverse osmosis system. So he has the cleanest water of even municipality water systems.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Right. And you're up there in Michigan. You saw what happened in Flint, Michigan, right?
Right.
If you don't know where your water's coming from, it can have a lot of things in it. And we think about it, or most of you probably don't think about it, but even think about products like if somebody's drinking a can of Coca-Cola, where did that water come from, Andrea?
Right. It's going to make a different flavor for every, like if you go into a restaurant, you might have the same coffee taste a different way than you would at a different restaurant, just based on the water that's used, whether it's more alkaline,
that's right,
more acidic, might be more repulsive to your body if it's more acidic.
Yeah. Well, an important thing is too, is like if I'm making shampoo,
mm-hmm.
I need to have water that's going to be more friendly for the outside of your body. The pH has to be balanced for that. If I'm making shaving lotion, I have to have a pH that's balanced for that, right?
Right.
If I'm making a product like, say, Spectramax, it's a product that has lots of minerals in it. It has to have a different pH than a product like, say, Eternity that has resveratrol.
Right. Yes.
And most companies don't control their water systems that much. They just run a filter through it, and they grab the larger particles. Maybe they have something to filter out the heavy metals, but that's about it. Here at Supernaturals, Sisel's Manufacturing, we control all of that.
Right.
And Tom has actually had cities come in, and there's the city water systems want to have Tom help them design water systems for their cities that could produce the quality water that Tom has here.
That's pretty cool.
It's important, isn't it?
Right.
And it's something that most people probably don't think about. But let's just talk about a can of Coca-Cola again. Do you know if your can of Coca-Cola, did they filter out the heavy metals? Did they filter out the pesticides? Did they filter out the hormones? You know, when I was living in Minneapolis for a short period of time, one of my patients, he actually worked for the city of Minneapolis water system. And he said that the thing that they had the hardest trouble getting out of the water was hormones.
Wow.
Hormones.
Yeah, that would be very disruptive.
Yeah, and when you think about it, they're finding in breast cancer, they're finding hormone disruptors, which are their exogenous hormones. They're hormones that are in the environment that end up in your water, in your food, in your drinks.
Yep. They're causing little girls to mature faster and little boys to not be men.
Right? And it causes cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all.
And it causes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it causes a lot of health problems. Correct?
Yeah, a lot of health problems. I think I've heard that all breast cancer, in the tissue, they discover BPAs from cheap plastic in the breast cancer or the tissue of breast cancer. That's why it's important to not drink out of cheap
Yep, they're finding their.
Don't eat.
That's right.
Drink out of
yeah, a lot of plastics end up in a lot of products, a lot of plastic ingredients. So it's important to know. So, you know, Andrew, here we've spent the last 15 minutes really talking about water.
Right.
One thing.
Right. One thing, but there's a lot more to manufacturing products and having them be very effective and healthy and non-toxic. You know, we've seen where he brings raw materials into that plant and they're quarantined to meet his standards. So they retest the product when it gets into the manufacturing facility to see if it meets his safety standards. And if it doesn't, he ships it back to the person who delivered it to him. He tells them, take it back, give it to somebody else. We're not going to use it.
And that's so important to talk about, Andrea, because if you want to have a quality product like For Restore, which is a Sisel product, or you want to have a quality product, you have to have quality raw ingredients. And like Andrea said, raw ingredients are shipped to Supernaturals right here, and they're tested. And sometimes they'll find that the raw ingredient, maybe in the manufacturing, maybe in the process of extracting it, the active ingredient. And when we find something like that here, and I say we because I feel like this is my company, right? This is your company, Andrea.
Right.
And this is your company. For those of you that are in Sisel, this is your company. And you can say, what we do is if we find that the raw ingredient, it might be called, let's say, curcumin, for example.
Right.
But what if it really doesn't have any of the actives in it? And that's what happens with a lot of products is they can still say they're curcumin, but they don't have the actives. They don't have the available actives. That gets sent back, like Andrea said. It gets sent back to the manufacturer, the supplier, and but sometimes raw ingredients show up, and they might be moldy.
We don't want that.
And a lot of companies will take and they'll use the moldy raw ingredients, even though it's not safe. But what they'll do is they'll hit it with radiation to kill the mold. Would you want your product hit with radiation? What does it do to the active? What does it do to the extract that we're actually trying to use?
It's going to destroy it.
That's right. That's right. And so we know from the water to the raw ingredients from when it gets shipped to the receiving department here, it's quarantined until we know that there's nothing wrong with it. Then it goes into the manufacturing plant where it's tested every step of the way to make sure that none of the actives are being destroyed in the process of making the product. When you get a quality product, right? When you get a quality product that says this is what's in it, right? When it says this is what's in it, you know that's what's in it. Nothing more, nothing less. And I think sometimes people just look on there to see, well, what's in it, but they don't think about what's not in it. And I think if you knew that let's just talk about another product like calcium. Did you know that most calcium contains high levels of lead?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. And people say, well, how can it have lead? Where does the lead come from? Andrea, are you familiar with how the lead gets in the product?
I'm not.
What's that?
I'm not.
Okay. So there must be a delay because it seems like it takes you a while to answer back to me. But lead comes from when the cows are fed the cattle feed has high levels of lead in it. And so these cattle, they pick up the lead from the cattle feed and it ends up in the cows, and lead is deposited in bone.
Oh.
So when they take and they extract the calcium from the cattle bones, that's where the lead comes from.
Okay.
And the EPA realizes that there's a problem with that. They realize that there's a problem. I actually have read several studies on it, but they've allowed it to happen, or they allow it to continue to be in the product because there's so many products that it would just be almost impossible to pull that out. So if you see like a breakfast cereal that's fortified with calcium,
yeah,
how do you know that it's not calcium that's contaminated with heavy metals like lead? You don't know.
No.
It doesn't have to be reported.
Wow. We wonder
Yeah,
why
that
we're
makes a
all so
difference,
sick. Right,
right?
right.
And so that's another good reason to not eat processed food. But that's a whole nother topic that Andrea and I could spend. We could spend probably a year talking about that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So,
Right.
so folks, here we are. I've driven around the manufacturing. I've driven through across the front of the Sisel offices, but we've really only talked about a couple of things. Like we've talked about the water, how it's important that the quality of the water that goes into the product. We've talked about the receiving, how it's important that when you get the raw ingredients that they're tested and they're quarantined. And we've talked about the fact that you have to test the raw ingredients all the steps of the way as the product is being made to make sure that even Andrea, like as you process something, like let's say that you're working in your kitchen and you're whipping up some batter to make chocolate chip cookies.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right? But if you're stirring that batter and you're mixing that up, you think maybe there might be a little heat generated in the mixing bowl?
Oh yeah, sure.
You bet there is.
Every action.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, just the process of mixing it is going to generate a little bit of heat. Well, when we're working in a factory and you're making vitamins, as you're mixing all the raw ingredients together, you think a little might generate in there?
Yes. What did they do about that?
Correct. That's it. That's the correct answer. Yes.
What did they do?
Well, so what we do is as we're manufacturing, if we know that there's some heat generated, we have to control that so that it doesn't cause any problems with the product as we're manufacturing it. So sometimes you have to super cool the mixers, all those different things to make sure that when we get a product, right, that it has in it what's supposed to be in it. Again, does everybody do that? The answer is no. No.
Right.
And so finally now, here we are. We've talked about the raw ingredients. We've gotten to the mixing stage, and now we put them into the bottles.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And have you ever thought about the safety of the bottle that you put your product in?
Oh yes, I have.
Yeah.
I know that.
What if we take and what if we've done the process of controlling the water, controlling the raw ingredients, quarantining everything, and making sure that as it goes along the line, every step of the process to make the product, we've had a great product, but then we get to the final product, and let's say the inside of the bottle is contaminated.
Okay. That would be bad.
What will that do with your product, Andrea?
Or it's going to ruin your product.
It's going to contaminate your product, isn't it?
Right.
So what about this? What about if the bottle is tested and it's sterilized?
That would be helpful.
But the cap of the bottle isn't. What if the bottle is sterilized, but the cap's not sterilized?
Well, for me, it's always about the energy that is emitted from things. And so you're going to have bad energy going into your good energy.
That's right. So you have good quality products, you have good quality bottle, it's all safe, everything's in safe, but the cap is contaminated. Let's say the cap has bacteria on it. So if I put a cap on a safe bottle and the cap has bacteria on it, guess what I just did? I just contaminated my product with bacteria.
Right.
And a lot of companies, a lot of manufacturers, they don't test that. They test the bottle, but they don't necessarily test the cap before they put the cap on the bottle. So now they just ruin their product. Guess what we do here at Supernaturals, Andrea?
We test it.
Folks, I mean, I'm telling you, these are things that most people don't think about. I went for a tour on the Supernaturals plant here 6 years ago, and I remember as I did the tour, and they were telling me about the bottle part of it, and they said that one of the companies that they were making products for, another company, not Sisel, had found another manufacturer that was going to make the product cheaper for them. And people shop around. I mean, just like you and I shop around, you know, we try and find the best deals. We try and find who's going to give us a coupon,
right?
You know, and savings and things like that. And so along the way, they found another manufacturer that was going to make the product less expensive for them. But what they found was afterwards, they had to return over 40% of their product because it was contaminated with bacteria.
Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah. And so the company came back to Supernaturals and said, we have to have you manufacture our product, because when it's made here, none of it gets, or very little of it ever gets returned.
That's fabulous.
Isn't that good to know? Isn't that good information to know?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And so, you know, folks, when you look at Supernaturals, we've got all of the credentials that you need to be a quality manufacturing plant. And quality manufacturing means that the products are going to be safe to use. You know, right here. Right here. Can you see that, Andrea?
Yes, Supernaturals.
And I'm keeping the window closed because it's raining out here too. I don't like the noise of the rain. But so we have what's called certified GMP. Certified GMP, good manufacturing processes, which means that we follow the strictest of guidelines that the FDA has laid out for a nutritional company. The strictest guidelines.
That's great.
The FDA can actually pop in here, and they do, and they can test the product, and they can make sure that the product has that its label claims.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. A couple of years ago, wasn't it in New York, Andrea? Wasn't it in New York when the Attorney General's office tested a bunch of products, like 200 different products, and they found that almost none of the products actually met their label claims?
Right. It was a huge amount, like 80% or something like that.
Yeah, it was like it was over 80%. I want to say it was like 90%. And so how do you know? How do you know?
Well, now we just got the tour from you, Doc, and we know that it's not some warehouse in Brooklyn, sweeping the floor and filling capsules.
Right? So folks, from beginning to end, we know that Sisel has the highest quality going in and we have the highest quality coming out. When you see the stamp on the bottom when the expiration date, certified good manufacturing ensures that not only is it going to be good when you get it, not only is it going to be good when you open it, but it's going to be good when you take it.
Right.
Right. And Andrea, I know I'm looking at the time. We're at the bottom of the hour already. We've talked for half an hour. And we haven't even really gotten into talking about the fact that it's important to know where your extracts are coming from as well. You know, like let's just talk about our product TSX, for example.
Right.
It's got an ingredient called astragalus. And astragalus is a plant, and there's certain parts of the plant that have active ingredients, and there's certain parts of the plant that don't have active. If we take a room full of the active ingredient, full of astragalus, ground up astragalus, let's say a 12 by 12 room, 12,000 pounds of astragalus, how much active do you actually get out of that, Andrea? Do you know? And I'm not throwing you under the bus.
Yeah, you throw me under the bus. I have no clue, but I'm going to guess 10%.
Out of 12,000 pounds, we end up with 2 kilos.
Wow.
And do you know what 2 kilos is? And I'm not throwing you under the bus.
I don't.
5 pounds.
5 pounds. Okay. Wow.
So, right. So when they $85,000 per kilo for cycloastragenol, one of the astragalosides that comes from astragalus, it's because you're taking 12,000 pounds and you're yielding less than 5 pounds of an active.
That's crazy. Well, you know, the reason I don't know how much a kilo is I've never dealt in substances where they measure it in kilo, if you get my drift.
Oh, you have never been in that industry?
No.
I figured just because you were from Michigan, you know, close to Detroit, you probably were involved with that.
No, I don't think so.
No, I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding you. You know, and the only reason that I know is because after I started working with Tom and I started working with Sisel and Supernaturals, these were things that I had to find out about because, you know, now once we're talking ounces, then we're talking milliliters, then we're talking kilos, then we're talking pounds, then we're talking tons and metric tons and things like that.
Right.
And so you have to be able to go back and forth.
Right.
So anyhow, you know, Andrea, I think we covered the topic pretty well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think that this would be interesting to people to, you know, we always get on the call. I'm always saying we have the safest, most effective ingredients, in my opinion, in the world. And this is part of the reason that I say that. I've toured the facility. I see what they do there. I understand a lot of this information. And so I know that I'm getting a quality product. And it makes a huge difference.
Quality. Yep. Quality from beginning to end, from where the ingredients come in to where the product comes out to where it gets delivered to your doorstep to where it goes in your body. If you don't know, how do you know?
It's scary if you don't know.
You know, people can tell you everything they want you to hear, or they think that you want to hear. But if they can't prove it, we can prove it.
Right.
All right, Andrea, I'm going to let you close out the call, and you have a wonderful day up there in Michigan. Folks, thanks for joining us. Share this with people, get people to understand that there is a difference, and it makes a difference if they hear it from you, because people trust you. They trust you. They don't know who I am. They don't know Andrea. They don't know who Supernaturals is. They may not know who Tom Maurer is, but they know you.
Right.
So, Andrea, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to take myself off video, and I'm going to let you close out the call.
Okay. Well, thank you, Doc, again for tuning in, even on your trip to Utah, to bring us some valid information about Sisel and about our products. And I hope that, I know you're up there staying with Tom, just tell him I said hello. And I'm going to go ahead and post the link for the tour of the inside of Sisel in the comments below. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I'd like to see a tour of that building, then I'll post it in there and you can take a look at it. Thanks for joining today, folks. Have a great day. Bye.